Welcome to the AI Brief from the YPO Technology Network. I'm Stephen Forte. Most Mondays I start with the build out, the chips, the capital, the infrastructure being poured underneath, all of this. Today I want to start somewhere else because two stories landed this week that put side by side, changed the frame entirely. For the last 2 years, AI has been an internal project, something you adopt on your timeline at a pace you control. You run the pilot, you pick the vendor, you decide when your team is ready. This week is the reminder that those days are ending. AI is now an outside force acting on your business, whether or not you have deployed a single model. Your clients are using it to grade you, and criminals are using it to rob you. By the end of these 10 minutes, I want you to walk out with 2 moves for this quarter, one on offense, one on defense, and the single sentence that ties them together. Last week, we spent 3 days inside your own walls. Monday, the economics of running these models. Tuesday, the job story flipping. Wednesday, AI agents landing on actual payrolls. All of it was AI as a tool you pick up and put to work. Today is the mirror image, AI as a force that picks you up. Let's start with the grade. This week, Thomson Reuters, the legal and accounting information giant, published its 2026 Future of Professionals report. They surveyed 1,800 professionals across 62 countries. And here is the number that should stop you cold. They estimate that roughly $143 billion of U.S. legal and accounting revenue is, their words, under active reconsideration, meaning the clients paying for that work are actively rethinking who they hand it to. 32% of corporate clients say they will reassess their providers within the next 12 months based specifically on how well those providers use AI. And of those clients, a third say more than $1 million of annual work is on the table. Now sit with the next 2 numbers because together they're the whole story. Only 6% of clients believe their current providers are actually delivering on AI's potential. 6, but 78% say AI-enabled quality is now essential to the work they buy. That is the gap. Essential to nearly everyone, delivered by almost no one. That space between 78 and 6 is where your revenue is quietly being redecided. You might hear legal and accounting and think, this is a professional services problem, not yours. It is not, and here is why. Thomson Reuters just happened to measure it in an industry where the billing is transparent and the switching is visible. But every business with customers who can leave is being benchmarked the same way right now. You just don't get a survey telling you so. It's like running a restaurant where the diners started grading the kitchen on a dish the kitchen didn't know was on the menu. The scorecard exists whether or not you've seen it. And there's a second edge to this, which connects straight back to what we talked about Tuesday. The same report found that 24% of professionals, a quarter of them, would consider leaving a firm that falls behind on AI, and a third are already using AI tools their employers never sanctioned. So the gap doesn't just cost you clients on the way out, it costs you the exact people you need to close it, because your best performers will not sit inside a company that hands them worse tools than the one recruiting them. Here is my read. Your clients upgraded their expectations of you, and most of them didn't send a memo. The market repriced good while you were busy running your pilot. So if I were sitting in your seat this quarter, here's the offense. Take your top 10 clients or accounts and answer one honest question for each. If I ask them directly, would they say, we are visibly better to work with because we use AI? Not, do we use AI internally? Would the client feel it? If you can't answer yes with a straight face, that's your gap, and now you know where it is. Then arm your best people first, the ones a competitor would most like to poach, because retention and client delivery are the same problem wearing 2 hats. That's the offense. Be good enough at AI that your clients and your best people choose to stay. Now the defense, because while you are working on using AI to keep your clients, someone is using the exact same technology to empty your accounts. Let me define the threat precisely, because the word gets thrown around. A deepfake is AI-generated synthetic audio or video of a real person, convincing enough to pass as them live on a call. And the crime it's powering is an evolution of what security people call business email compromise, BEC, where a fraudster impersonates an executive to authorize a payment. It used to arrive as a cleverly worded email. It now arrives as your CFO's face. Here is the case that defined the category. a finance employee at the engineering firm Arup joined a video conference with what appeared to be the company's chief financial officer and several colleagues. Every single person on that call, except the employee, was an AI-generated deepfake. Over the course of the scheme, the employee made 15 separate transfers totaling $25.6 million. And the detail that should worry you most, the employee was initially suspicious, had the right instinct. The live video, the familiar faces, the right voices, overcame it anyway. And the economics of this attack have collapsed in the criminal's favor. A convincing voice clone now takes about 3 seconds of audio, a clip from a keynote, an earnings call, a podcast like this one. Deepfake fraud losses in the U.S. hit $1.1 billion last year, roughly triple the year before. The average loss per incident is now over $500,000 and closer to $680,000 at large companies. The FBI ranks AI-assisted business email compromise among the fastest-growing fraud categories, billions of dollars across tens of thousands of incidents. And Deloitte projects generative AI fraud reaches $40 billion by 2027. The old bank robber needed a mask, a weapon, and a getaway car. The new one needs 3 seconds of your voice in a list, pulled from LinkedIn, your website, your public filings, of who in your company is allowed to approve a wire. They are doing the org chart homework you'd assume nobody bothers with. They bother now because the tools made it cheap. Here is my read. You cannot train your way out of this one with a memo about being careful, because the whole point of the attack is that it defeats careful. The Arup employee was careful. What beats it is process, not vigilance. So the defense, and it fits on one page. Any wire transfer over a threshold you set requires a second confirmation through a different channel that you established in advance. A callback to a known phone number and agreed code word, a second human who has to physically approve it. Crucially, not the channel the request came in on. If the deepfake CFO asks on a video call, the confirmation happens on a phone line you set up last month, not the one he's calling from. Issue that policy this quarter. It costs you nothing. It slows down exactly one kind of transaction, and it is the single highest leverage control against this entire category of fraud. So pull the two threads together, because the synthesis is the point. On offense, your clients are using AI to decide whether you're still good enough. On defense, criminals are using AI to decide whether you're easy enough. Two completely different rooms, the boardroom and the back office, and the same realization in both. AI is no longer something you schedule. The internal project, the rollout, the training, that one's still on your calendar, and you should run it well. But this, the client who regraded you, the fraudster who cloned you, this is on a calendar you don't control. They already upgraded. The only variable left is whether you upgraded your response. The companies that win the next year will be the ones that stopped treating AI as a tool sitting in a drawer waiting to be picked up, and started treating it as a party already in the room, across the negotiating table and on the other end of the phone, and whether they invited it or not. AI didn't wait for your roadmap. Your clients didn't wait. Neither did the criminals. Plan for the guest you didn't invite, because this quarter, that's the one who shows up. That is the YPO Tech Network AI brief for Monday, June 29th. I am Stephen Forte. If this was useful, send it to a fellow member. I will be back Tuesday with more. Until then, stay sharp.